Hey, comic book faithful, Adam Barnhardt here. With the recent release of Marvel's Echo on Disney Plus and Hulu, we wanted to bring you a very special episode of Creators on Creators. This edition features comic book icon and the creator of Maya Lopez, David Mack, and the kingpin of crime himself, Vincent D'Onofrio. Enjoy. We're here with the iconic David Mack. You know him from the creator of Echo, Kabuki, a killer Daredevil run. Some of the best covers in the game. Then obviously the man, the myth, the legend, the star of Christopher Columbus's Adventures in Babysitting, Vincent D'Onofrio. Welcome. Thanks for speaking with me this morning, you guys.
Yeah, of course.
Wow, this is great, Adam. Thanks so much for thinking of this and for having us here.
I want this to mainly be a conversation between you two. Just because
Adam,
you
how's first of all, how's your life? How you doing?
life's good, man. So life is very good. I do have a little story to tell you since you asked, I suppose.
Okay. Please.
Since we last talked in Nashville,
Yeah.
we found out my wife's expecting, and
Oh,
we're
that's
reading
so
we're to the point in the pregnancy where they say like the baby can recognize voices and stuff. And the first book we read to baby Barnhardt is Pigs Can't Look Up.
Aw, thank you.
So you should know that there's at least one baby on this planet whose first ever book was Pigs Can't Look Up. And then the second book was Echo by David Mack. So this is crazy.
David, I put a children's book out.
Oh, that's
Called
fantastic. Yeah,
yeah, Pigs Can't Look Up. Yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
that's wonderful. But super congrats on that too.
Thank you. Thank you. I appreciate it. Vincent, how's life with you? I didn't reciprocate the.
Yeah, no, things are very good. We're days away from restarting Daredevil. So that's we're about to plunge into a lot of work. Things are good. Echo did pretty well. I'm very happy with that. Very happy with the attention that Alak was getting.
Days away now. What are your thoughts on the paparazzi? I know the first round we got all sorts of set photos and stuff. Did you guys are you going to go kingpin on some paparazzi so we don't get set photos? Can we, suspect some set photos or what's going on?
I don't know. I don't know. Yeah, I mean, last time it was interesting because there was a couple of extras or background actors that were actually there to sneak photos, which was
Oh,
which just never happens. Like that's never happened to me before. So that was very strange how they somehow got through the casting of it and stuff. But no, I mean, it's like I think things are going to be more secretive than ever. But there will always be shots. Is that what you're talking about? Just people taking shots and posting them?
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Leaking
And
secrets,
I'm sure it will happen. Yeah. I don't know. We don't
Yeah.
plan on stuff like that. That's for
Are
sure.
you under liberty to say that you're staying local to film, or are you going
Yeah,
to
yeah,
far
yeah. No,
away?
we're shooting in New York. Shooting in the studio and in locations in New York.
Awesome.
Probably
Awesome.
mostly Brooklyn and Manhattan, Chelsea, stuff like that.
Cool. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you?
We're pretty excited. The new script's great, and we've got two great directors. I love these guys, and yeah, man, I'm very happy. And Charlie and I both we speak every day, and are working on stuff every day, so it's good. Yeah, I feel like I am excited.
It's nice.
It's
I feel
funny to
like
start when you're about to start a new job that is going to be tons of work. So you're like
Mhm.
super excited and like, oh, here we go. Got to do it. Here we go.
That's the thing, man. I mean, Kevin said on stage with you and Charlie that 18 episodes. Do you feel this is kind of like a shift back to network storytelling?
I don't know. I have, the amount of episodes keeps fluctuating. So I don't really know the number that we're at right now, but it seems like there's a few shows that could work with more episodes than 8 or 10 or 6, whatever, or 5. Echo is like 5. I think this show could definitely work with more episodes, and I know that Charlie is, and I am too, happy to do that. But the number keeps fluctuating. I think you're going to have to wait for an official announcement, because I don't want to say a number that we're going to do because I'm not even quite sure what it is.
I mean, you could just say 24 or 36 and we'll will it into existence.
I wouldn't want to do that, maybe. Not in a row, anyway. That would be terrible.
Dave, so I should ask, are we free to go? Full spoilers, David, have you watched all 5 episodes of Echo?
Yes. I watched all 5 episodes, and I saw Vincent a week ago at the premiere.
Nice. Yeah. So let's just jump right in. The creator of Echo, first of all, it has to be absolutely wild to see one of your creations not only hit print, but decades later, years later, hit the screen by the biggest studio in Hollywood. How's that feel? Tell me kind of your thought process behind seeing Echo on screen.
Right. Yeah. So there's other characters I've created in comics, and I've been involved in for instance, a creator in series called Kabuki, which is what got me the invite to start writing Daredevil at Marvel, was the series Kabuki I did, which this is the 30th anniversary of Kabuki, and it's been it's been optioned by someone the entire last 30 years. So I know what it's like to be working on something for film and TV and developing it, and then it to be at one place, then go to another place, and all the variety of challenges that you face in that process. So Echo has turned out to be the first character that I've created that I've got to see inhabited by an actor on TV. There has been some stage plays of Kabuki, but to see on the screen, and on this level of production, obviously very surreal, very amazing, and this level of talent involved. Really, really grateful for all of the effort and the heart and the soul that all of the actors have put into it, and all of the thoughtfulness, that the writers, that the directors, that everybody has put into this character and the series.
That's awesome. So I take it, and you probably won't say, to Vincent, so you can email me after this, but everything ended up good. You had no bones to pick, huh?
Yeah,
when you adapt something from one medium to the other, there's naturally going to be a certain amount of changes.
Mm-hmm.
And often you want to, that's not a bad thing. Often you learn, I learned this when I was working on adapting Kabuki for a very long time. A lot of the solutions that you found for one medium are specific to that medium because you're leaning into the strengths. You're leaning into the strengths of the comic book medium and all that entails. And so a lot of those things that happen are because of the nature of that medium, the problem solving. And so it doesn't necessarily make sense to apply every one of those same solutions when you're doing something in a different medium. And you also have to leave a certain amount of room for something to organically reveal itself in the process of the other medium. And also, it's been 25 years since I've created this character. And I've experienced this with Kabuki too. If I was to do it now with a different set of perspective, there's things I would do differently as well. So the fact that there are a certain amount of differences is to be expected. So that's but I'm amazed by how the amount of consistency and continuity and congruence of the character. So you have to be grateful for that, and you have to appreciate that. And the authenticity of the character still shines through these actors, through the story. So yeah, there's a this is an unusual character. The character is deaf. She's indigenous. It's a crime story. It's a family story. There are a lot of interesting things about it, but there are a lot of ways this could have went wrong.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say wrong, I mean having just slightly the wrong tone in certain parts. Tone is kind of everything when you're dealing with the subtleties of a character. And I'm so grateful for how right it went.
Vincent, when you obviously Kingpin's integral to the story of Echo, how long ago did you know you were doing the show? Obviously, Marvel Studios calls you up and says, "Hey, you want to do Hawkeye?" Was Echo part of that deal, or did you get Hawkeye done and let them watch some dailies and they said, "You know what? Let's make Echo work." When did you know about this show?
Probably, I didn't know beforehand, and I didn't know why we were shooting it. I think it happened. I think that I was told shortly after I finished. I think that they thought there was definitely a feeling that they found the right woman to play Maya Lopez, and I agreed with them. I didn't, I enjoyed working with Alakwa on Hawkeye too, but yeah, I think that I think I learned, a couple of months after.
And you instantly signed on the line. What did you know about, of the character and stuff? I mean, did you go through and read David's stuff back in Hawkeye?
Yeah.
Did you wait
No.
to dive in until the show, or?
No. I've seen everything that involved Fisk that's up to this, point. Like, I mean, there's some of the new runs, the Kingpin runs that I haven't looked at yet. Some of them, but as far as everything, anything that any canon that connects Fisk, I've read all of the runs, all the issues and everything, and so I knew about the Maya Lopez story.
What's your favorite part? What's your favorite part of Wilson Fisk canon?
He's such an interesting character, and there's been a few versions of him and stuff, and I just love that so much. And I get inspired by by a lot of the art that's in the comics, because it has, particularly when I'm thinking about Kingpin, or Wilson Fisk, and the Miller runs were always very exciting for me, and I found early on, before I met David, I found some of his stuff, and the first couple of paintings that he did of Fisk were really, really, truly inspiring. I didn't get to tell him that for a while, but eventually I did get to tell him. And then he was just like super helpful with turning me on to maybe stuff that I didn't have, or anything that he offered his help. We kind of, I believe, did we meet on Twitter first, David, or did we meet in person first?
This is actually a really cool meeting, because we met on the set of the first Daredevil series of episode 9, which is the very first time Wilson Fisk and Matt Murdock have a scene together. It's not until the 9th episode, and it's you and Charlie Cox filming in an art gallery. And
with Vanessa, yeah.
Vanessa. Yeah, and you walk through the door of the art gallery, and I'm the whole time you're filming, I'm on the other side of the door.
And Bill was with you, right?
Yeah, I brought Bill Sienkiewicz, a super friend of mine, an inspiration to me when I was first reading and then growing up, and then I've got to work with him on Daredevil before. Joe Quesada invited me to the set. I brought Bill, and then we got to meet Charlie Cox and Vincent on their very first on-screen scene together.
Yeah.
And
Which is
Vincent was
wild.
so gracious, and Charlie was so gracious with us.
I mean, I couldn't believe that David had brought Bill too, because also Bill's Kingpins were influential on my, on how I figured out how to play Kingpin in that first Netflix series. That was for me, it was a big deal to, when you were talking about tone earlier, David, the tone of the even different styles, they were your styles and the kind of pink Kingpins that you were doing and the kind that Bill were doing, they both had this, I don't know what it was, there's something about it that said, oh, like, this guy is broken, and he knows it. It's not like he doesn't know that he's broken. He's broken, this guy, and he's got to fight and win to feel less broken. And I really felt that came across in a lot of that art that you guys were doing when you guys did that stuff. And, I used to carry it around with me. I had it in my dressing room up on the walls and, very, very inspiring. Every time when I was in my dressing room before I would go on set, there were a couple of particular paintings. The one, what's the one where he's in the trench coat? He's in a coat and they're like shaking hands or something, the two of them. He's like hulking over Daredevil and he's standing. What's that from?
I don't remember that one specifically, but I remember this image from Daredevil Love and War where he's at the desk and he just looks massive.
The other side.
I feel like you brought that up too. And when you were mentioning that to us on the set, and that just seems so direct, like such an incredible way to prepare for your performance. You said something to the effect that you just look at this art, and just imagine yourself as that character in the art. And it was
it gives you a feeling, and I used to look at them before I would go to set, and that would be the last thing I did. Just take the paintings in and then just walk out there and do it.
Because some of those paintings, they're not necessarily, there's a certain amount of realism to it where it counts, but there's also a certain amount of distortion and expressiveness to it. Yeah. And so I love that there's kind of a jump that something inside you has to make when you say, this distorted, expressive, chaotic version of that with a certain amount of abstraction and a certain amount of realism together. And then you put your imagination inside that and inhabit that. It was so brilliant. Like the way you explained it, it was so simple, but so direct.
Yeah. Cause they're heavy. They're heavy paintings. I mean, they're heavy. They're quite, they're really interesting to look at, and they're not goofy. They're like serious, heavy stuff, very helpful.
Vincent, you mentioned broken, obviously Kingpin's broken, and we've seen that a few times throughout the 3 seasons of Daredevil, but the best, at least my favorite part of showing that on screen comes in the Echo finale, obviously, when Echo a vision, gives Kingpin a vision, makes Kingpin see that future, or not the future, but his inner psyche. As an actor, where do you go to what depths do you go if you're willing to talk about it? What depths do you go to
Yeah, I mean, I'll
to
talk about it.
do it?
Yeah, I'll talk about it a little bit. I don't want to get too specific about it, but it's,
Yeah.
like there's that scene where she attacks you from the inside. She goes into your heart and in your mind. And in this case, she took her and I both back to just before I killed my father,
Mm-hmm.
when he was beating my mother to death. And even have the hammer in my hand, and she's trying to take all of that hate and all of that want to kill him out of me. She's trying to pull it all out of me. And so this kind of wild thing happened. Every once in a while, I'll be playing a part, and it can either have to do with joy and kind of loveliness, or it can be intensely heavy and emotional. And in this case, it was quite something. So sometimes something will happen where you're experiencing some kind of emotional place you've put yourself in, but in a kind of unique way that you've never done before while the cameras were rolling. Mm-hmm. And it only happens a couple of times in your career where you're actually making a leap forward in your ability as an actor while you're actually performing. Anyway, that's like a self-examination. Like, that's how I feel about it. Like I made a leap forward, And so what happened was I brought back an emotion from my life, and I'd go and, I had them set up a little room off stage. We blocked the scene. If people don't know what that is, that's like make sure that everybody understands where the characters are moving, where the cameras are going to be, and all that kind of stuff. And then, I said, I told the DP and the director, Sidney Freeman, I told them, I'm going to, and the first AD, I told them all that I'm going to go really, really deep here. It's going to be like dark and wild, and I don't really know what's going to happen other than it's going to hurt me. It's going to be crazy. And so I'm going to just go off set. When you're ready, just call me in. I'm going to sit down and I'm going to start, and you just say action for the crew, but I'm going to start as soon as I start digging in. And so it got to this place where I felt almost straitjacketed in a way. I was trying to, as if she had grabbed me and held me and forced herself on me to get what she wanted. She wanted to pull this stuff out of me. And so in the scene, I was overtaken by this kind of constriction. And it was really quite something to play. When you can get to a place like that, that's like real emotionally, then you can sell any story thing you want. Like you can sell it that I'm in back when I'm a child and I'm about to go kill my dad. If the emotion is there and the story is grounded enough, and if the script is good enough to inspire the actor to go to a place like that, then you can sell any point, any story point you want. And so, and then we just do it, and then she would call cut, and then I would immediately walk off set. I'd give Alakwa a look in her eyes and hold her shoulders, like this is, we're actors and this is awesome kind of feeling. And then I would leave and we would do it again. And then when we'd do another take, I'd go to zero to not try and repeat anything I did in the last take, to see what happens again emotionally. And so we just, we did the day like that. We shot it fairly quickly. It was very well organized, that crew that we had was quite something. Our DP, the first AD, and Sydney, of course, is amazing. And so, yeah, it was a tough day, but it was quite something. it's quite an emotional scene.
That's what I was going to ask. I mean, after a day like that on set, how, Vincent D'Onofrio as the actor, how are you able to shake it all off that quick and
Yeah.
go home and carry on your life?
Yeah, I am these days. Yeah. When I was younger, it was harder, but now I figured I've been doing it, leaving it behind at work now for years now. And so it's like I'm able to do that. It helps to have children. It helps to have good friends. Like, I'll call a friend or FaceTime one of my kids, and they don't care about what I do for a living. They have their whole life going. So if I could just turn the focus onto something else that's truly important to me, then that just takes you right out. You just feel immediately like you're a father or you're a good friend that cares about their good friend, and stuff like that. So it's something that you have to just let go.
So you say your kids don't care about what you do for work, but I can guarantee you one of them has told someone that my dad's Kingpin. I'll place that guarantee right now.
Yeah, I mean yeah. It's interesting, because there's I remember somebody telling me a story about Michael Jordan's son who plays basketball, and like they don't take advice from Michael Jordan. They take advice from his friends. It's sort of like that kind of a thing. Like they're very into what I do for a living, but I'm their dad first, and that's what I mean. That's more important than anything. But yeah, they actually enjoyed Echo. So yeah, it's so I guess they care, but in only the way a child can, or they care about their dad's job.
Right. I mean, Echo's here. Daredevil's coming soon. You told me, and I can't quote it because I don't remember, but something along the lines of you wanting to kick Spider-Man's ass. Is that still the goal for Wilson Fisk, or does he have his political aspirations on the front burner instead?
Well, I think that if I think if the powers that be want that to happen, then it will happen. I think there certainly hasn't been any kind of talk that it's not going to happen. So it's I think I mean, to me, that's the direction that we should go in. So I don't, but who knows? Like you get these calls and you're like, oh, we're doing this now. I'm like, oh okay. It's like that.
Right. Now, obviously, Mayor Fisk is the future, as the end of Echo told us, and that was kind of a story that came out right around 2016 when a very other contentious, divisive election was taking place. Obviously, are you, as you're working on that side of Kingpin, are you taking inspiration from any politicians? Are you just doing your own thing? No.
Yeah, I'm just doing this whole other thing. I mean, yeah, I think it's unfortunate that when we think of like the worst, most evil politician, I think it's unfortunate that it's not a comic book character, that it's actually somebody real. And that sucks, like, more than anything. And so I'm not going to do a parody of that or imitate that in any way. That I think that there's much more interesting storytelling than some shithead, So I think that I think the idea of Fisk as mayor is a big idea, and and corruption, of course, comes to mind. So there is a million different ways to play that, and for me to play Wilson Fisk in these different situations is just a blast. You play him I play him in domestic situations and in this kind of good and evil stuff, and then now I get the chance to play him as mayor. It's like it's really, really interesting. He's a really interesting character to bring into all these kind of environments and scenarios. He's not a normal guy, and so it gets more specific and detailed because I approach him as a human being in these different environments.
David, as a different type of storyteller than Vincent, do you if Marvel comes calling, do you have a Kingpin Daredevil story ready to go? Do you have some ideas brewing that you haven't gotten to tell yet?
Yeah, that would be a joy. That would be a joy to continue that. When I was writing that Daredevil series, by the way, that was my first ever work for Marvel. I started as a writer on Daredevil. It was Daredevil issue 9 through 15. Kingpin didn't really have much of an origin story before that. So I really thought of it very much as a Wilson Fisk Kingpin origin story. And I loved that Echo was a part of it, but I even more thought of it as when I was writing that story, just because there hadn't been much of one before, I kind of thought of it as like the first time you get to kind of delve into Wilson Fisk's background and childhood and, where he came from and what was involved in making him tick. And that was a part that I really enjoyed of that story. I was able to revisit Fisk to a degree when Brian Bendis and I co-wrote a series called Daredevil End of Days with Bill Sienkiewicz on art and also Klaus Janson on art. From the Miller Janson run, but Janson was a part of Daredevil history with many creators for decades. And those were guys that we learned from. So it was incredible working on a project with Sienkiewicz and Janson, who were guys that we learned from. And then they were doing the art to a story we wrote. And with Daredevil End of Days, it was kind of taking that to its end. If people kept the cycles that they were doing, where would it lead them? So it was fun to do sort of like the end days of Daredevil and Wilson Fisk, and then it was very fun to do the origin of Wilson Fisk. And I would be delighted to write another Wilson Fisk story somewhere in between there too.
Yeah. Would you, Vincent, how about this? Would you ever, I know you're a filmmaker, but do you have any inklings? Do you have any desire to get into sequential storytelling in comics? I mean, maybe we could cook something up with David Mack and Vincent D'Onofrio as co-writers on a comic. Is that something you'd be down for?
Yeah. I mean, I think, that's you're saying a big chunk there. I mean, the idea of, not letting David just come up with some incredible thing on his own is that's I wouldn't want to stifle any of his this imagination, that's incredible imagination that this guy has. So I mean, I'm up for anything all the time, but when you were just talking to David about that, I was just thinking, wow, that would be really something to have David come up with something amazing. As far as the question of whether we would do it together or not, I don't know. I mean, I would be up for anything, but it would be really cool I would love to do like a what if kind of Fisk story.
What would your what if be?
Well, I would just like to explore him in outside of the usual teaming up of villain and superhero. I'd like to see a truly more realistic version of kind of like what they did with the Joker from DC. Did like they kind of like that a more interior approach and 10 times darker than anything we've done with him before. That to exploring that would be really interesting.
What if Kingpin got bitten by the radioactive spider instead? Would you prefer natural webs, or would you have to have web canisters?
I think he would commission canisters. Yeah.
Cancer. Speaking of commissioning technology, do you know where the magical eye patch came from?
Do I know where it came from? Who created it?
Yeah. Are you allowed to tell us where it came from?
No. Do you know?
No, David? I was hoping you knew. Oh.
No, are you asking about like the contact lens technology?
Well,
both that and there's an eye, that glows.
There's a patch that has to release it, you have to pop this little tab.
Oh, right.
Yeah. But it helped the healing process of scarring and the actual damage to the eye. It helped increase the speed in which it heals, and also how it helps in a much more kind of futuristic kind of way to heal you. So I think that was just, we were, invented as a device to get us to lessen the scar, so we could be more like the comics, but he will always have a scar now when I'm playing him anyway. So, but we wanted to, it was such a big wound, we couldn't de-emphasize how badly he was hit. We just needed to figure out a way to, over time, make it less and less. And so, just like he commissioned him being able to communicate with her, the device that he gave her for that, and for himself, that he commissioned this thing to make him heal faster.
Adam, it's an interesting question. I imagine, he has the money and resources to make those kind of things, but it's not necessarily a subsidiary of Stark Industries or something. He probably employs someone else who will pop up from the Marvel universe, the Tinkerer or I'm sure there's a character in there who he commissions to, on that end of R&D, on Wilson Fisk's resources.
That makes.
Is it Hammer Industries or a subsidiary of that, or someone who works for them, or is it something else? That's something that's the fun thing about Marvel, right? Is you have these little Easter eggs and characters, and you can say a name, and you go, oh, I really know the backstory of that name. That makes sense. That's the person who's coming up with these ideas for Fisk, and later he'll have his own company or his own movement, or he's on the downside of having that or coming from that. That's kind of the fun of working with Marvel. And when you're working with Marvel, you're working in the spirit of collaboration, right? So not just with the people you're working with, but with the rich histories that these characters have, and what people have brought to their mythology before you, and just what the character is. So I think it's a great idea. If Vincent wants to team up on a Kingpin story sometime in the future, we'll approach it in the spirit of collaboration. Ask Bill Sienkiewicz to be a part of it, do some art for it or something.
That would be so fun. Yeah.
I want to say one of the things I love about Vincent is he is a true artist. And so, we know him as an actor and the performances and the characters that we've seen that way. But as you both were talking about before, he has a children's book. I did a cover for his print book, cover and back cover.
Yeah.
And he had such a great idea for the cover. the front cover is his face, and the back cover is the back of his head. It was such a brilliant, simple idea. And he's a poet. I've seen him performing in person, where he does a kind of poetry to music. I did the cover to one of his albums for that. So I love the fact that he is so committed to what he does, but has a diversity and range that spans multiple mediums. And, just is an artist, from his soul that expresses itself in different ways. So I have no doubt that he would be a delightful collaborator on a story for something.
Would be fun.
Let's do some quick fire questions a little bit. The type of questions you kind of sneak in at the end because you gotta.
And I'm so bad at quick.
And Marvel would probably yell at either of you if you said anything. Obviously, David, you have involvement in Echo as the creator. Have you heard anything about season 2?
I hope that there is more Echo. I shouldn't say anything more than that, but I hope that I would love to see a season 2, and I would love to see her popping up in other TV shows, other films. I'm really grateful for what those filmmakers have put into it, and a big shout out to Alaqua Cox for just inhabiting this character so perfectly. Like, wow, I'm really impressed. And also her cousin Darnell, who portrays young Maya Lopez. Wow. And Vincent got to work with both of them, right?
Yeah. And they're both so good.
That's awesome.
Alaqua just got better and better and better. Like by the time we started shooting Echo, she's just locked in. She's really locked into that character now. She really does it well. And in the series, by the last couple of episodes, she has this ability to just really kind of make you be with her. Like some people, you have to make an effort at like saying, okay, I'll be with this character for a while. With Alaqua, there's nothing pretentious about that woman, and so she carries that into the character. So by the end of the series, whatever you think of the series, by the end of it, you are definitely on her side and want her to win. And that's all you need when it comes to playing a superhero. That's what you need.
Yeah. And there are a lot of transcendent moments in the series too. On so many levels, I'm so grateful that this series is there, because before the series was there, when I was writing it, I would get mail and emails and message board things from people who connected and identified to the character, for whatever reason. But people who also connected to the indigenous aspect of the character or the deaf aspect of the character. And now to see this on TV, where it has such a larger ripple effect. I travel for much of the last decade. I was overseas much of the time, traveling for the U.S. State Department, and I taught at the School for the Deaf in North Africa, in Asia, in Europe. And like in North Africa, a lot of them speak French. So I had the French translation of the Echo story.
Wow.
And the deaf students, they loved it. Like the deaf students
cool.
all around the world were so excited that there was a whole big collected comic book of a Marvel character who was deaf, and like connected to it in such an incredible way. And I got to see that around the world for a period of time. But now to see what is happening, that there's an actual TV show of it that is being like promoted, full force. It's incredible to see the people. Yeah, I think we experienced this at the premiere too. The premiere last week.
Yeah.
Already there's this incredible feeling of like, you're in the superhero world, but there was an incredible, it was very normalized for everybody to be speaking sign language at the premiere. And the indigenous community there expressing themselves. You had all these overlaps of worlds that all came together in an incredible way. And I met people who, were like they were deaf and indigenous and couldn't believe here's something that they connect to directly, and expressed that to me and spoke to me about it. And it was so amazing and in full force to be a part of that.
That's awesome. You had that run on White Tiger as well. It'd be pretty cool to see White Tiger in live action too, huh?
That would be cool. Yeah. Yeah, I did.
Okay.
I did covers for White Tiger, and I designed the new outfit for the new female White Tiger years ago, based on they had sent me a George Perez version. George Perez, shout out to him, and no longer with us, but was an awesome guy. I climbed the pyramids with George Perez in Mexico.
That's
and
awesome.
some drawings of him at the top of the pyramids. And it was amazing to have a George Perez design and then asked to do like the modern version of that. So yeah, that would be great to see that.
Pretty cool. Yeah.
Vincent, how when it comes to Kingpin, playing Kingpin, how full do you think your tank is? Did you just fill up at the gas station and you got quite some time to play this character, or where would you say your longevity goes?
I don't know. It's the only thing that could have held me back would be if I just had to keep on putting on all that weight and keep it on and stuff. And so like, I don't have to do that anymore. So I can, I'm like in the best shape I've been in a long time. And I love these new kinds of ways that they actually construct the muscle fat suits that I have to wear. I think they finally work and feel right and look good. And so that helps a lot, because it's like it's not the healthiest thing in the world to keep putting weight on and taking it off again and stuff. And so as long as the powers that be will have me, I can't see not playing this part. It's so much fun.
It's Brad Winterbaum was talking about how Kingpin's the Thanos of the street level storytelling Marvel Studios is now doing. Do you want to continue? Do you wish to have the character continue residing at that kind of scope of storytelling, or are you hoping one day? I mean, Avengers Secret Wars is coming up in 4 years now, 3 years. Do you hope to be in Secret Wars, or what? Where do you want Kingpin to find home at?
Everywhere.
Everywhere.
I don't see why he has to just be in one situation. It's the thing about in Echo, part of the storytelling in Echo is that his reach has gotten further. He's gone from just controlling Hell's Kitchen and certain stuff coming in from the ports of Manhattan. The veins of his business are running wider across the country, and I think eventually across the world. So I think he is sort of in every place. So I think that's the way I see it. I see as Vanessa and him being quite powerful, and so that's I think I really do mean all everywhere. I love the fact that Brad said that, by the way, because I didn't know that he said that until you told me. That means that there's lots of jobs to come. That's good. It's a good thing.
David, Vincent, that's all I had for you guys this morning. Thanks so much for joining me. It was a blast.
Mentioned something. Vincent was also gracious enough to write a word, like I don't know if it's going to be an introduction or the afterword for my new art book, The Marvel Art of David Mack.
Oh,
And
yeah.
he wrote something like very, very kind and generous
That's awesome.
in that book as well. And, and at the premiere was so gracious to, like, there were press asking him questions. He was so gracious to introduce me to the press
Cool.
and, mention this is the guy who created Echo, and, talk about what he spoke to you about and in other interviews where he had mentioned, like, I sent him some things for, so his
It's
research
so funny,
and his performance.
it's so funny to be in that situation. And like, you have to walk along the red carpet and do all these interviews. And then, and it's just, it's just part of the job. It's fine and stuff. But then, 10 feet from you is the person who created the character that you're, the main character that's part of the show. And it's like, this sense of like, this is the guy that they should be talking to, not me. It's like, this is the guy who created it. I'm just here to help lift it off the page, but this is the man. So I shoved you into that interview. No, I'm glad you were okay with that.
It was so kind and thoughtful, and it was very lovely. And I think while we were speaking, Louis Esposito said hi to you from behind, and then you lifted that character up and helped tell that story, and all the actors were there, and I got to watch it with Joe Quesada and Jimmy Palmiotti, who were the artists on that first Daredevil that I worked with, and who also hired me for the job. I got to watch it with them in this setting, and with you there. And thank goodness for Jimmy. Jimmy came by, and I got to introduce you to Jimmy as well. And I think it was an enjoyment for them too. It's been like 25 years since we did the first story with that character, but that character, I've worked on that character off and on over the years, and some other stories as well from that. And I've seen her, become a part of the Avengers and worked on that and become, I've seen her inhabit the Marvel universe for 25 years in certain ways. And I'm just so grateful for you and the rest of the team of this to make it real in such a heartfelt, such a real, authentic way.
It's nice, David. Thank you.
Well, thanks, guys. Thanks for being part of this.
Yeah, take care, Adam.
Hey, you
thank
too.
you so much.